Thanks, Jasmine. And my name is Anna. I'm also an optimizer here at Vine Skills. I help firms kind of the gamut of Filevine. I help launch, I help optimize, I dabble in Domo reporting. So I have my hands all over Filevine. Today, I'm going to kind of walk through reporting, how to build a report, a few different kinds of reports that you can build, some kind of template building on the back end, which I think is really fun. And if you have questions as I'm going, go ahead and pop them in the chat and I'll answer them as I see them or as Jasmine brings them to my attention. So I am going to share my screen. And we're going to be working in our Vine Skills sandbox environment today. So there's a bunch of stuff in here, bunch of fake data, but it'll kind of help you visualize what this reporting looks like. So we're going to start out really basic, how to build a report. We're going to head to Report Builder, which is going to either be in your blue bar up here at the top or under the hamburger menu, depending on how big or small your window is. So we'll head to Report Builder. And the first and most important thing you need to remember when you're building a report is to select your project type. That's going to give you all of the options that you need to build a report. So we're going to be building a report today. We've got tons of project types in our sandbox, but we have one specifically for free help. So let me pop that in. So you can see when you choose your project type, now you actually have additional reporting options. What these options are going to be reports for your collections sections for that specific project type. And I'm going to go over how to build one of those reports in just a little bit. But I'm going to start with kind of a basic report, just like a list of projects. This is going to be what you are most generally using when you're building a report, is going to be this list of projects report. And so when you select that, it brings you to your column setup. So this is where you choose all of the data points that you want to be able to see on your report. And the report that I'm going to build today is going to be one that shows us any projects that have a missing SOL that are in a demand prep phase. So those are phases and fields that we have in our sandbox environment, but most of you who do PI should have those fields as well. And I'm going to pull this report. So the theory here is those reports should have an SOL in them, right? If they're in the demand prep phase, we should know what the SOL is. So I want to see on this report, certainly the statute of limitations as one of the columns. So I'm going to start searching up here and you can see, no results found. And I made a mistake that I make every single time, and that is you have to select your project type a second time to make sure that you get all of the fields that are available to you. So we're going to choose the free help type again. And so now when I come up here, we'll give it a second and I'm going to type in statute. And now I'm getting way more options than I had before. And you may have tons of different SOLs in your template, kind of like we have here, but I'm looking for one specific SOL, and that's the main one that we have on our case summary section. And it's not pulling up as I search for it. So I'm going to come here to the category selector, and this is going to show me all of the sections that I have available in my template. And I'm going to pull the case summary section so that I can look at those fields specifically. So here are the fields inside of our case summary section, and they're in alphabetical order. So if I'm looking for statute, I can come and look, and it's not there. And that's because Filevine has recently updated kind of how fields are pulling into reports. So if there's a field missing and you know that that field exists, you're going to want to click this little display toggle here. And that's going to allow you to see all of your fields. This was kind of a neat little invention by Filevine. It's intended to make reporting a little quicker. You can sort through your data points faster, but often you're going to need to toggle it on to find the one that you're looking for. So now if I type in statute, I have all of these additional options. So I want to pull in statute of limitations due date as one of my columns. I also am going to I'm going to pull in the phase date because I want to see when this project moved into this phase. So I'm going to add that as a column as well. These are all the columns I want to see, but I want them in a different order. So I can grab any of these and just drag it and that's going to order our columns for us. So I'm going to have, the first primary. I want to see the statute pretty early on. So that's good. That's a good order for my column. So I'm going to move on to criteria. So once you've got your columns in order, you're going to come here and hit choose criteria. And this is where the real reporting magic happens. This is how you narrow your results down so that you can pull the report that you want to see. So I want to pull a report of that case summary SOL is missing and we're in a demand prep phase. So I'm going to start searching for my criteria just like I did for my column. So I'm going to say statute, and we know we've got a ton of them. Report Builder can move a little slowly, sometimes even more so when you're screen sharing. So bear with me if we get stuck anywhere. So I'm looking for this statute of limitations field. We've got all second statute of limitations, deadline change, statute of limitations, but I know I'm looking for the one that's in case summary. That's just our regular statute of limitations. You can see we have a bunch of different criteria here. We can limit it to ones that are done on a specific date, statutes that were done between specific dates. And as you use Report Builder, you get a little more comfortable with what all of these different options are. But I know the one that I want is this one with the ... because this one gives me what I feel are the most kind of flexible options for an SOL report. So when you add this criteria, you're going to get these options in a drop down. So I want to see missing a due date. You can also build really good SOL reports showing you any that are overdue or due within 7 days or 30 days, and then subscribe to those regularly, which I'm going to go over once we get this report saved. So I'm going to say missing due date, and then I want to filter it by the phase as well. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to search for phase, and it's moving just a little slow for me. And I want phase is in. This is going to allow me to choose the phases I want to see, but you can also see that we can filter by phase date or phase is not in, but we're choosing phase is in, and we're going to say phase is in demand prep. So we've got our columns, we got our criteria. Now we can run the report. You can hit this button down here, or you can hit the big one at the top, but they'll both take you to the same place, which is right here. Depending on how much data you have, this process could take a couple of minutes. I know I only have one report showing up on this report, or one project showing up on this report, but it can take a few minutes if you got lots of data coming in. So now we know we have a project that's in the demand prep phase that's missing a statute of limitations. We don't know when the statute of limitations is. So we are going to save this report so that we have this information. So once your report has run, you can go ahead and hit save and export. And I would like to point out that as your report is running, you might be enticed to try and skip it and come straight to save and export. But Filevine's not going to let you do that. If you come to save and export, when the report's done running, it's going to kick you back to the run report, and you're going to lose any progress you have on the next screen. So just be patient with it and let it run, and don't move on until you actually see your results.
One of the things here in this list of projects, when you set up columns, you had the ability to move them around. Maybe you moved them in a way that you thought was going to be like great, but now that you're seeing the data pull in, you're like, I actually don't want it to be in this format anymore. You can move them from this page instead of, going back to set up column and trying to drag them. You can just move them, whichever way that you actually want them to go. That way, again, you save your report, it'll show up with these columns in that row. And then you do have the ability to group items. So if, for instance, you didn't use the phase as the criteria, you could group all of your projects by phase, and then you'd be able to see all of your projects, and then also be able to see what phases that they were all in.
Yeah, so this report example is to kind of give you an idea of how granular you can get, but Jasmine is exactly right. If you want a kind of a bigger picture report, but then you want to group by phase or any of these other items, you can do that, and you can collapse these. So you can kind of see a list of phases, and then within each phase, which projects match your criteria. You can also rename the report while you're here, but you can also do that when you save it. So we're going to do that when we get to save and export. So when you come to save and export, you don't have too many options. You have a save as and some export Excel or Word. So the first thing we're going to do is save as and name this report. And we're going to name this missing SOL in demand prep phase. I really recommend that for your reporting, you come up with some kind of naming convention that makes sense for you and how you're doing reporting. It can get really overwhelming if you have tons of reports and you can't remember what you named it. So if you can come up with some kind of naming convention, that will really serve you in the long run.
And especially utilizing that criteria in the name of your report is going to be super helpful. Now that box that just went away, it's really tempting because it will linger for a little bit to press save more than once because you're like, wait, maybe I didn't press save. You'll see the title change behind that screen long before that screen actually disappears. Try to resist clicking more than once because it will save multiple copies of that report and you're not able to delete reports. You can only archive them. And so you don't want to clutter up kind of your report builder by clicking that same report, saving it over and over again.
Excellent point, because it will create duplicates if you hit it multiple times. Patience is key with report builder. So now that we've saved it, we've got way more options than we did before. We can export this as an Excel or a Word document, but then we also have export options, which I'm going to come back to because that's a little more advanced and we'll touch on that. You may or may not have the CSV report. This depends on if you have any external reporting connectors. But the really important and useful ones are going to be these down here. So auto report settings is what's going to allow you to receive these reports on a regular schedule in your inbox. So if you want this report emailed to you, you can have it sent to you on a weekly, monthly, yearly, daily basis, whatever makes sense for you. You can see here it says that we will send this report via email to this email address, which is this user's email. You can only schedule auto reports for your own user. So anybody that wants auto reports has to go in and schedule them themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule this. I want to get this report monthly and I want to get it on the first day of every month. So you can select the day, you can get it twice in a month, you can get it 3 times in a month. You can set that however you want, what makes sense to you, but we're going to do it once a month. I want it on the first and I want it in the morning. I want it to be there when I come in so I can review this report. So once you've selected how often and when you want to receive it, you can hit save and you'll see down here, auto report successfully scheduled. Now that'll get emailed to you. You'll see the results in the email and there will also be an Excel sheet attached to it. So you can open that up and edit it if you want to. Let's say you subscribe to it and you get it every day and that was way too much and you don't want to get it any longer. You can come back into auto report settings and say unsubscribe, and then you won't get that emailed to you anymore. You can also share any report you build. So you can share it with your entire organization. So when you hit share report, you're going to get this list. If you want everybody in the org to have access to it, you just click this one and you can double click it or click it and hit this arrow. But let's say it's a sensitive report. You only want a couple of people to have it. I'm going to search. I want Jasmine to have access to this and Asia to have access to this. And I don't want the whole org to have access to it. There is no save button here. So as soon as you move it over into this column, they're going to have access to that in their saved reports section. They will not be able to edit this report though. So any report that is created by you that you share with somebody else, they can't edit your report. They can save a copy and edit their own version of it. This just allows them to look at the report and they can subscribe to it as well.
That's really helpful if you're like, I spent a long time creating this report, getting the columns good and everything else. It helps so that other folks aren't having to reinvent the wheel. They can come in, maybe just change the criteria, or make other small little tweaks and then save their own version of that. So it is helpful. Do they also get the schedule report at the same time that you do? They would have to go in and choose the auto report settings for themselves. So Like Anna mentioned, if you share it with them, they're able to view the report. They would have to go in through those same steps that she did at the beginning to save the report, name it, and then the rest of the options will pop up for the ability for them to get the report sent to themselves.
Good question. Um, so then finally, we can archive reports. As with many things in Filevine, you can't delete items. They don't want you to delete things. It's a safety measure, and I think that's super great. How many times have we deleted something that we did not mean to? So with the reports, you can archive them. You can do that from here, or you can also do it from that first screen. So this is all of these reports, and wow, that's just a lot of reports, and I want to clean this up. I don't want to look at all of these. So if you are going through your reports, you hit this little box. It looks just like the got it box on your feed. If you hit that, it's going to ask you if you want to archive this report. We're going to say archive. It will remove it from your list. Down here, it's going to be where your archived reports are kind of hidden. They're pulled out of the main list, it's collapsed, but you can always open it back up and say, actually, I want to keep that report. And you can hit this little unarchive box button, say unarchive, and it'll pop it back where it was. You still have the report, it's not going anywhere. If you archive a report here, it does not archive for everybody. It just archives for you. I learned this actually very recently. I was archiving a bunch of reports for somebody and they said, I can still see all of them. So you cannot archive reports on behalf of other people. Okay, so that's kind of layer one of building a basic report, some basic functionality of reporting. I'm going to go through a little bit more. I'm going to do a collection export report and show you how that works. That's a little more advanced, but I think it's a super useful tool. But before we move into that, I wanted to take a break and see if anybody had any questions or anything they wanted me to clarify any further. Because I know it's a ton of information. Filevine reporting is for me personally, I have 5 years of Filevine experience, and reporting was probably one of the most difficult things to kind of get a good grasp on. It takes a lot of trial and error, I would say.
While we're still on this page, you'll see that there are stars. Did you already go over that? And I just missed it.
Oh no, I didn't. You're very, very good. Thank you, Jasmine.
So the stars allow you to make, you see this list is super long. Starring it brings it to the top of the list so that you can easily access it. Because again, the more that you create these reports, the longer this list is going to be. So the ones that you want to access regularly, or maybe you're like, hey, I use this report as a base for all of my other reports, you may want that to be at the top. That way, when you go in to create a new report, you can easily find it.
Yes, perfect. Yep. So if you hit that star, it'll bring it right up here to the top. Of course, there's also the temptation to star a bunch of them and then you kind of run into the same problem. So use it sparingly, use it for the ones you really want quick access to. Okay, so I'm going to move into building a collection export, and a collection export is a really cool tool that Filevine gives you inside of a project where you can get a report based on what you see in a collection section. That's why it's called the collection export. So we can build a report that we want to pull for Black Panther on these medical items. And the report building part is the same process as what we just went through. I'm going to walk you through that and then show you how to associate it with the collection section so that you can export that Excel report. So we're going to come back here to report builder. And again, first thing we need to do is select a project type. And so I'm looking for free help. And I want to build a report of my medicals. I want to be able to total those up for the client. I want to be able to pull them on a client by client basis. I want to be able to check special damages. That's what this report could be used for. So we're going to build a list of medical items. So this is building a list of medical items, which is all of these items in the medical section.
And again, if you're not seeing those list of items there, just scroll down to select your project type. That's usually a good indication that that is.
Yes, yeah, and I still forget to select the project type on more occasions than I care to admit. So we'll say list of medical items. And I'm gonna want to see pretty much anything that is an amount. I want to be able to total those columns up. So it knows that I'm looking for medical items. So I'm gonna, in the quick select, I'm gonna say amount. And you can see here that it labels which section this field is coming from. And I'm trying to pull from the medical section, which it's, let's see, balance, each medical item. So I want original balance. And then I want client payments. I think there's an insurance payments in here, health insurance payments, MedPay PIP payments. And then let's see. One little trick that I use, if I can't find what I'm looking for in Report Builder, I go to the actual section that I'm building the report from to look at the field name, because that kind of helps me narrow down what it is that I want in the report. So I definitely want to see final balance due.
And you can copy that text as well. Final balance dues automatically added, but you can copy that and just paste it into the quick select so that you're not having to type it out. You do need to know like the title of that field. So like original balance amount isn't on there. So if you kept trying to type an amount, you wouldn't ever get it. So it's always good to have a project open in a separate tab. That way you can copy and paste or at least see kind of what data you're looking for. And as you can see, each medical item now is specific to that medical section. It's not that earliest, average, anything like that. It's specific information. You can still pull from any of your static sections. So your intake, your case summary, any section where you only have the option to fill it out once, you can pull any data from those sections. But for the other collection sections, you're still going to have that earliest, latest, things like that.
Yeah. And I want to circle back to something Jasmine said. She mentioned final balance due was already in there. I do that all the time too. I'm like looking for a field and it defaulted into the list. So if you were having a hard time finding it, make sure you check what they've defaulted, because Filevine will pull in a few columns for you to kind of start the report out. So final balance due is one of them. Something that they do that I think is strange and I need to replace every time is they'll pull in a provider or a name and it'll be the first name. I don't want the provider's first name. I actually want the provider's full name. So I'm going to search for provider full name. Extended in this case, even because if they are associated with a hospital or some company, I want to be able to see that information as well. And I'm going to remove this provider first name. So I just highlight it and hit this arrow. And I'm going to organize my columns in a way that I think makes a little more sense. I want to see the provider first, the original balance. Actually, I want the project name first, then the provider, original balance. I want all these payments in the middle, and then those payments are feeding into what this final balance due is. So these are all my columns. We've done this before. So now we're going to choose criteria. And on a collections export, I don't want any criteria for this specific report. I want to see all of the medicals that are entered into the medical section. So I'm not going to limit it at all. So now we can run the report. So I'm going to run it. And this is going to pull in every medical item in this project type, every single one. So if you have, 500 clients and each client has 3 providers on average, you're going to see every single one of those here. Right now, we just have the one project in here to make this a little more digestible. So here are all of my medical items for this project, for this org, or for this project template. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save as, and because this is a collection export report, I'm going to name it collection export medical items, because that's the template that we're building it from. So I'm going to save this. And you saw it changed the name, but I'm still waiting. I'm not going to hit that save button. We don't want duplicates. All right, so now I've got my collection export report built, but I need to figure out a way to actually utilize it. And this is going to be a little bit more of an advanced tool. I'm going to open up a new tab because this is in Customs Editor where you set a collection export up. So if you come to Advanced and you come to Customs Editor, and we have tons of stuff in here, don't mind it. Let's see, free help. I'm going to go to the collection section that I want this report for. And here is medicals. And there's like this little hidden button that a lot of people don't notice, show collection options. And this allows you to do a few different things, but also it allows you to set up this collection export. And so you'll say add, and then you can choose the report that is going to be associated with this. We want this report, that's the eligible one and the one we just built. And we're going to say close. So now it's there. We don't have to save it. It automatically saves. But if we come back to our project and refresh any changes you make in Customs Editor, you need to refresh on the front end. You notice we now have this little Excel button. And so what's going to happen is if I hit this button, it's going to generate an Excel document for me with all of that report information that we just created. And I'm going to need to share my whole screen, or let me swap back and forth a little bit. This part gets fun. So I'm opening this and I'm going to switch to my Excel window in just a second. Okay, and it's really small, I know. I'm going to zoom in. So now you can see that this report has pulled just the items for this project into this report. So we can see all of the provider information, the balance, all of the medical information that we want to see is here. And you can do that in each project to pull a report specific to that project alone. Okay, so that's a collection export, which is an extension of kind of the reporting world. Any questions here? Any questions about reporting in general that anybody wants me to touch on? Because I have all kinds of reporting stuff I can talk about. There's a whole wide world of reporting, and I will, but I want to make sure that if you guys have specific questions or things you're curious about, that we talk about that too.
And while we wait for those questions to come in, that Excel that was just generated came in the format that's native to Filevine, but you are able to change what that template looks like. So you can add your logo, you can add different colors, you can arrange the columns in a different way. So you saw that our project name was repeating for every single item that we have. Maybe we don't want to see that every single time. So you can move data around so that it shows exactly how you need it to. Can you show in Customs Editor which switch you turned on?
Absolutely. I'm going to start fresh. So if we go advanced and then to Customs Editor, we're going to go to our section that we want to associate that template with, and we got to pick our project type. So this was medicals, and you can only do this with a collection section, just so everybody knows. So when you expand your section, there's this little plus here, and it's right before all of your fields, and it says show collection options. And when you click that, it's going to give you this extra box. It's kind of hidden. It's a little hard to find. And there will be a button here that says add. And when you press that button, it's going to give you a list of reports that can be used for that collection export. And so here's the one we selected. You'd hit save. I'm going to hit close. And now here it is associated with this collection. One thing that's important to note about a collection export is that if you want other people to be able to hit that Excel button, you have to share that report with them as well. They won't be able to pull a collection export report if they're not, the original report is not shared with them. Okay. Any other questions? That was a good one too. Well, if not, I'm going to do a little bit of showing some of what Jasmine was just talking about with editing that template and how you can edit it and then re-upload it and what it looks like after you've changed it.
And just, sorry, Anna, you can have more than one export template in a collection section. So, if you're like, okay, we have an Excel and a Word document, maybe they're pulling different things, maybe they look a little bit different. You can add both of those to the section and still, when you're actually in the section, you'll just choose which one you want to run. There'll be a list drop down essentially.
Yep, a little arrow right next to it, and then you can pick which one you want. But if you only have one, you'll just have the one button, and that'll be what it defaults to. If you hover over it, it'll tell you what the report is that it's pulling from as well. Okay, so I'm going to take that report that we just built and work on a backend template. So, the reports that Filevine spits out, the default template is fine if you want a list of things. But you have the option to kind of edit the template so you can put formulas in, you can change the font, you can change the formatting. And to do that, you need to get to this screen. So you've built your report, you've saved it. Once you save it, you get this export options button. And when you click that, you're going to get these 1, 2, 3, 4. The first thing you're going to want to do is generate a default template. This is going to give you kind of the codes, the information that you need for this template. So you'll hit Excel or Word, depending on what type of report you want, but we're going for Excel right now. And it takes a second and it'll populate here and it gives us this link. It's a download link. So I'm going to click it. It'll download. I'm going to open it. Let me share in my other screen.
And the nice thing about Excel is that you can utilize Excel's formulas that are built into the program to kind of help you to manipulate the data as well, or to give certain formatting. Word doesn't necessarily always have those same capabilities, which is why a lot of us utilize Excel as kind of the option for these reports.
Absolutely. Yeah. Word, there are some things with the Word reports that can be useful. Maybe if you're looking for a summary and you want it on a nice piece of paper, but Excel is really going to be your most flexible and valuable reporting tool, I would say. So when you open your collection export in Jasmine, let me know if that's big enough. You
Maybe just a little bit bigger.
a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Perfect. You're going to get something that looks like this. It's going to have these codes in it. And if you're familiar at all with fusions, these codes will look familiar and kind of similar to DocGens as well. There are specific codes that you need to pull this information in. The most important thing when you're building a template on a report is you need to make sure that you maintain your repeating notes. We've got a begin repeat and an end repeat, and those need to be on either side of your repeating rows, or the report won't work, the template won't upload, you'll get frustrated. It happens to me plenty, but you'll need a begin repeat and an end repeat to make sure that you're going to get each line of that data in here. What I'm going to do to this report, I'm going to do some pretty simple editing. I'm not going to do anything too crazy. I'm going to change the font. I'm going to change this color, and I'm going to total these columns so we can get a total amount at the bottom of each of these amounts. So you can come to the row directly underneath any amount field in a report like this and use an Excel formula on those amounts. So we're just going to sum these. And we actually have to come down one more because we need to be able to sum what is going to be the next row, and it will capture every repeating row in this report. And so we're just going to say equals sum of C2 through C3. And so that's going to give us the sum of every original balance that shows up on this report. And we're going to do that all the way across. Let me make sure that it grabbed the correct fields, and it did. I don't know how experienced anybody is with Excel, but if you grab this little thing and drag it across, it'll pull your formula all the way. You don't have to enter it in manually every time. I have these defaulted to accounting formatting, which I like for this type of report, but you can change the format of these and you can say, I want just currency fields and not accounting. And then I'm going to change some of the font. I don't necessarily like the blue that Filevine puts on here, so I'm going to remove the fill, change this. I'm going to bold these. I'm going to make them a little bigger so they're more noticeable. And then I'm going to add lines to my report. I like lines so that I can see what's happening in each cell so it doesn't all kind of run together. And then I'm also actually, I don't want the project name. I'm going to delete that out altogether. We don't need to see that. But when I do that, it removed my begin repeat note. So we need to add that back because this is going to be the first data point in this repeating report. So if you right click on this cell and say new note, that's what allows you to pop that note in there. And it's just hashtag begin underscore repeat. And I will also show you when we go back to upload this where Filevine has instructions on how this all works. So you don't have to remember everything that I said here.
And if you don't remember that like begin code, before you delete that column, you can always just copy the note and then paste it. So that you're like, I don't want to have any issue
Yeah.
or get a hashtag or something like that. You can always copy it. And then you can change the titles as well. Those don't have to stay the
So
same.
I'm gonna say provider. I'm gonna say just health insurance, med pay, PIP. Final. Okay. And then I'm gonna bold my amounts because I like to see the numbers in bold. Okay, so I feel pretty good about this. I'm gonna save this template. So I built it right on top of the template. I exported it out and I'm just gonna save it and re-upload it. So I'm gonna go back to Filevine and show you what that looks like. All right, so you've created your template, you've edited it. You're gonna come right here to upload template and you're gonna select that template that you just saved. Let's see here. You can rename it to whatever you want. I just left it as that name, but you can change the name of what the template is called. As that's uploading, excellent. So uploaded, there were no errors. If there are errors in your coding or your report, it will tell you. It will tell you it was unsuccessful, and sometimes it will even tell you exactly why. Not always, but sometimes. And then just to note, number 2 here, where it says edit the template, here are those instructions that Filevine gives you. They kind of break it down step by step on how to edit this template, what the codes are, how they work, and then how to re-upload it. So once you've uploaded it, it will tell you current template is this, and then you can export it right away using this template. So I'm going to hit export report. And here we go. Switch back to Excel real quick. And so now you can see that all of that data from that project is here and in the format that we want. You can add that name if you just want the name once, so you can have a name associated with the report. You can move that name code, to the top. But if you're exporting in a collection export, you know which project you're in. This is what's going to pull out of there. This is the template. It's pulling all of the data, but this is what it looks like in that one project because it's the only project we have. Okay, so I'm gonna pop back to Filevine. And one thing to note about creating a template like that is if it's a report that you're subscribed to, when you get that email with the Excel attachment, that Excel attachment is going to be formatted in whatever way you set your template up. If you have multiple projects, can you pull for just one project? So Paula, do you mean a collection export or a regular report? Because the answer to both is technically yes. For a collection export, you will pull that specifically from the project that you want to pull it from. So you'll go to that project and then you'll have that option for the collection export here. And it's only going to pull data for that project and it'll use whatever template you've built on the back end. If you want to pull a report for a single project using Report Builder, you can do that using criteria and narrowing it down by project name. But for collection exports, it'll just pull for that one project. All right, any other questions? Because I think we've covered a lot of ground, that's for sure.
Definitely have. Thank you so much. If there are any more questions, we can answer those while we wait to see if there are any. Just again, reminder, I did put in the chat a few links. So if you did want to catch any of our other free help sessions, again, they're every Wednesday this same time. Feel free to check out the schedule on our website. We will record, so this will be up on our website. There's a link directly to where those training videos are located. And then you'll also see a link to our support plans. So if you need some additional help post-launch, we can help you out with that. We'll go ahead and do a call to kind of determine your needs and then set a game plan from there. for whatever you need. So if you are like, hey, I really would love to be able to do reporting, but I don't have the time to set these templates, or I don't have the time to run all these reports and then put them into the correct places, we can definitely help with that. We offer a wide variety of optimization services, from hourly all the way up until like we're a member of your team. We're in there, we're helping you kind of get everything that you need to get done. Again, we do run the gamut on all things Filevine and Filevine related products. So lead docket, Filevine doc assembly, Domo, automations. We kind of, again, do it all. So if you do have any questions or are interested in any of those items, feel free to reach out to us and we can get you helped out with that. My email, as well as Anna's, is in that chat. If there are no questions, I want to thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you, Anna, for all of your knowledge on reporting. It was super helpful.
Great. Thank you, Jasmine. It was fun. And I hope that you guys learned something helpful. I hope there was some sort of tip or trick in there that'll help moving forward.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye.